Go ahead.
And
Hi, Chris.
hey there, sorry to bug you. I was looking for the agenda online and didn't see it posted.
Let's, pretty sure it was, but we'll go ahead and screen share here.
Because the last one I'm seeing on the Planning Commission meeting agendas is December 12th.
There we go.
Thank you.
You bet. Change the sign. That's right. Stacy.
No, there you go. Yeah, it's fine. I did have a typo in the agenda, so I was pretty
Oh, man.
January 2022 instead of 2023.
Yeah. Let's see about the next year. No, it usually happens.
Don't you have a certain number of days that you're allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Zero anymore?
I found it at a different link, folks. I was just looking at where it said for agendas, and it's actually on y'all's landing page. So it's all good.
Good.
Who's that?
It's Christopher.
Oh, no, the. There's Brian gonna do the 10K again or something?
To look at?
Yeah,
I don't know.
he won first place.
Yeah, except I didn't record him.
I didn't give you credit for it.
Is he nice? Yeah, I did. I felt for Howard about that.
I'm gonna do the 10K.
Oh, yeah, good deal.
Yeah, they should. He should do it.
Again, we're working hard on it right now. All the confusion, it's, every year it's the same. A lot of planning.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, yeah. Do we have enough planning commission? We aren't worried about enough commissioners?
Yeah, and we also have Jamie online, so.
And Sarah's here?
Hey, everybody.
Okay, Kayla's on. Okay. Yeah. Oh, because they're different people. Okay. right, guys, it's 4 o'clock, January 8th. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'll go through roll call for planning commissioners. Howard Fritz,
Here.
Abby Dahlman,
Here.
Joey Edwards.
Here.
Lupe Bobadilla. And Jamie Cipher.
Here.
Great.
Lupe, for me, he's not.
Okay. County commissioners, Commissioner Munch.
Here?
Commissioner Marcella.
Here.
And Commissioner Fiedler. Okay. Changes or additions to the agenda? Yeah. We have minutes to approve from November 17th, November 28th, and December 12th. I know there were different people available or who attended those meetings differently. Let me just, as far as making a motion. It looks like all of us were there for the 17th. 12th. So the 12th, it would just be Joey, Howard, and myself that can vote on those ones. But do I have a motion to approve minutes?
Individually or in bulk?
We can do the 17th and 28th together.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the November 17th and the November 28th minutes of the County Planning Commission.
One second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. And
I'll make a motion for the December 12th, 2022.
Second.
okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Any updates from staff?
February 13th has been set for the Leadville 7 major subdivision sketch plan. And have sent out the link to the application. Reach out anytime if you have any questions. The development application has been sent out to all the review agencies, and we will be doing a review of the application with the development team prior to the staff report. So that'll be coming up in February.
Great.
I think the only other updates that we have is that we are going to be working on those code updates that we've talked about, making the site plan review for backcountry administrative. The ADU, as long as they meet the standards, that's going to be administrative as well. So those are two that are coming up pretty quickly, and hoping to maybe have those in February ready for you as well.
Great.
Oh, and I guess the next thing is that the community planning and development will be doing a work session. I'll let Jeff in. We'll be doing a work session priorities for the department in 2023. So if you would like to listen in on that work session with the board, and then we'll be following up that with a priority discussion with the planning commission after we've held that on the 13th. So those are the only updates that we really have from the department right now. Other than we have added to staff a code outreach staff member who is already actively working on several cases, and really excited. We shared that employee with the assessor's office, which is creating some really nice overlaps. And I think the only other update that we have is that OWTS and TOT administration is going to come in under community planning and development. And so those are, I guess we have a lot of updates actually.
What is TOT?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Transfer of title. So septic systems have to go through a transfer of title process with any deed transfer. Those are some exciting updates from the department. We're also, if you know anyone, we are actively seeking another member to the team, land use member, as well as an upcoming GIS tech employee to the team. So if anyone knows anyone, please have them apply.
Thanks. All right, we'll move on down to new business. We have board appointments and seeking an applicant for an alternate member vacancy.
Yep, so we have one alternate member vacancy for the planning commission. Seems been working well so far, but if you guys wanted to advertise for that vacancy, we can do that and post it in the newspaper or whatever process you guys do.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well always have two backups, two alternates.
Okay. And then, yeah, the election of the board officers for this year.
Let's forget, we have so much to do.
Oh, I guess it's because you stepped away and that's why we,
Yeah, that was,
so we did just do that.
We did just do it. Yeah, we did just do it. Yeah, so tell us again where everybody sits on that.
So we will be doing board appointments for the rest of your terms. I don't have that right in front of me at the moment. I could probably pull it up here. But we will be reappointing with the annual resolution all the members for your remaining terms. And so I'll get that out to you so you know when your terms expire. And but tonight we'd be looking for appointments of chair, vice chair, and secretary for the planning commission as well.
And we don't have, nobody on the board is up for, like, it's just reappointing, right? We're not doing.
It's just sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's not appointing new,
Yeah, we're
it's just
doing opposites.
restating the status every year of whose term is what and who is on each commission.
Got it, okay. Does anybody seek an officer position that isn't currently holding an officer position? Or is anybody who's holding an officer position would like to not be holding an officer position?
Secretary, I think, right? Or did you?
It's so funny that we have a secretary. They don't do anything. But
Bylaws or something like that, we provide the minute taking videos.
As long as Marla's around.
it's like they're doing the minutes for us. Who's our secretary right now?
Currently, chair is Heather, vice chair is Howard, and Abby is secretary.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, does anybody want to switch it up?
I'd like to see Abby get the vice chair.
Sure.
Good.
Does that mean you want to be secretary?
Shut it, just not do nothing, sure.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Abby and I probably can't make the
I
motion.
will
Oh, I
make a
saw it.
motion, that Heather be reinstated as chair, Abby Dahlman be instated as vice chair, and Howard Tritz be reinstated as secretary for 2023.
Great, do I have a second? Any of us can second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Old business, we have file 22-43, which is the CI rezone. Quickly, do we want to switch these two or not?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna switch our old business files. We're gonna real quick do file 22-41, which is the Climax Revival Special Event Facility CUP. Just because I think Anne has an update for us on that.
I do. David Kerner is with us today, and he has requested a tabling of his file until the next regular meeting of the board, January 23rd, just to allow him some time to get some further responses back that he has started. He's also started his traffic study, and he just needs a little more time for all of that to come to fruition. So he's just requesting of the board a tabling of that application until January 23rd.
I'll make the motion that we postpone that to, what was the date?
January 23rd?
January 23rd.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Great, thanks, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Okay, file 22-43, which is the CI rezone. This is for 500 East 12th Street and 428 East 12th Street. And I am gonna read a really fun statement for you real quick. Okay, the Lake County Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners will now conduct a joint public hearing. This statement I am reading shall be incorporated into and made a part of the record on these proceedings. The Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners have jurisdiction to conduct a joint public hearing on a rezoning under section 3.13 of the Lake County Land Development Code. The purpose of this hearing is to consider whether the proposed amendment should be approved. In considering that matter, the commission will address the approval criteria set forth in section 3.13.3 of the Lake County Land Development Code. The procedure to be followed in this hearing will be: 1, members of the commission and/or board will disclose if there's any ex parte communication. 2, actually in this case, does that count still?
I'm sorry.
Ex parte, sorry. Yeah, I just had a question.
It
Okay.
is for the currency statement application.
Okay.
Yeah.
The county staff will make initial presentation. The applicant may then make their presentation. After that, any other persons either supporting or opposing the application may present evidence. Then supporting and opposing witnesses may be questioned by the commission and the board. Once questioning is concluded, no further questioning is permitted unless granted by the chair. In 6, the applicant may then present any rebuttal evidence. The parties and witnesses are asked not to submit redundant, irrelevant, or cumulative evidence. If someone has already made the point that you wish to make, please simply say so. The chair will also require that all comments be made to the Planning Commission and the board, and that there be no dialogue between the applicant and members of the audience. At the conclusion of the evidentiary portion of the hearing, the chair will entertain a motion to close the evidentiary portion of the hearing, and the commission will discuss and weigh the evidence. Then there will be a motion to close the discussion phase of the joint public hearing. The Board of County Commissioners will leave the meeting, and the chair of the Planning Commission will entertain a motion on the application. The motion may take the form of one of the following recommendations. 1, approve the application with no conditions. 2, approve the application with recommended conditions. 3, approve the application with newly identified conditions. Or 4, deny the application. The planning director shall make a record of any substantial discussion on the motion and include that in the record with the recommendation of the commission. The commission's recommendation will be in the form of a statement of motion. Are there any objections to the jurisdiction of the commission or to the form or some substance of these proceedings? Hearing none, I will now ask each planning commission member, and then each county commissioner if you've had any ex parte communications to disclose, and if so, to please disclose them now. Howard Tritz.
I have none.
Abby Dahlman.
None.
Joey Edwards.
None?
And Jamie Cypher.
None.
Okay, and none also. And then County Commissioner Munch.
None.
Commissioner Marcella.
None.
And Commissioner Fiedler.
None.
Great, thank you. Okay, now staff can make their presentation.
All right, this is a dual application, so on behalf of Big Owls and the county. And so we figured we'd start off with Big Owls because they were the first ones to come in with their application and just to present their case.
It is a little tough.
Should I stand back here? Would that be okay? I'm behind Commissioner Mudge.
Now, I don't typically picture up, but if you wanna
Here, I can move.
We're gonna move. Actually, I can.
That's better.
Okay, there. Now we can see
Yeah.
you on the.
Oh, because you want to
There we
see
go.
me? Okay,
Yeah,
I
there we
stand,
go.
I see right here. This is good?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you. I am Melissa Kendrick, and I'm representing Wendy and Al Slavin, who are bringing forward this request to rezone the property from industrial mining to commercial industrial. And it's a joint application, so that's a little bit unusual. But this image does a good job at kind of showing in the background, I don't have a pointer, but is Highway 24. I think you guys kind of know where you are. And then we have 12th Street, which is where Big Al's is located. Most of you are probably really familiar with that, but that red dot depicts exactly the business location. So Big Al's is on 2 acres of land. It's really 1.9, which is part of why it was important for us to partner with the county. Though it also makes good land use sense, as you read as well. But that's the location of Big Al. So we're adjacent to the Mineral Belt Trail, and then the animal shelter and the public works yard just to the west of the property. So you could go to the next slide. This is a bit of a close-up of the business. This is called a mini warehouse, and you can see it really depicts that, right? It's a warehouse structure with the individual personal storage units inside of it. So the only outdoor storage is that 2,300 square feet on the front that faces 12th Street. You can kind of see in that green vegetation, that's kind of where the 2 acres is, where the potential expansion of the business could be located. Next slide. So it was approved as a conditional use permit in 2000. And at that time, the industrial mining zone district allowed it as a conditional use. And so it was approved under that zoning. The code changed in 2002, which excluded a mini warehouse from that zone district, which eliminated their ability to expand. And the image on the left is that CUP document. And you can't read it very well. I know you guys have it on your screens, but it contemplated, didn't really approve, but contemplated expansion at that time. So this change in the code really limits their ability to do that at this point. So we believe it's an oversight. There's no way to prove that, but to rectify that is the rezoning to the commercial industrial. So next slide. I think it's important in this discussion, it was required as part of our application, but to understand that the business has located in this location for over 20 years without any complaints, either from neighbors or the county. So it's functioned very well where it's located. There have been no adverse impacts that we can identify. Again, the warehouse structure itself really screens a lot of noise and activity as well as light, because it's all internal pretty much. And that 6-foot fence around it helps kind of screen the outdoor storage as well. So we believe there is a positive impact in that there is, personal storage, could be business or a residential storage near the neighborhoods and some of the businesses that are located right there. We also believe that it's a minimal impact of public services. There's been no incidents where police or fire have ever been called to this location. And the building is locked up every night, hours, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. So it's a quiet, quiet activity. And no water or sewer service required for the facility. So again, really minimal impacts here, and there's clearly access to the public road. It sits on 12th, and any additional expansion would also access 12th Street. So next slide. As you read in the staff report, the comp plan is sort of an interesting tool in this situation. But the staff report reads that the current proposed uses are compatible with the 2018 amendment. And I think that what's important is that it doesn't identify, we know residential is important in this location, and this is really a good ancillary use to residential. At the time this was written, the rail yard didn't exist. There's a lot more residential now on both sides of this, along with some of the commercial activity that's going on. So we believe that it continues to be a viable and important use in that location. Next slide. So the rezoning criteria, can you click on that and see if it, I might have gotten fancy and it's gonna, yep. Yeah, so again, we believe it complies with the comprehensive plan, as does staff. Second one, we do believe that an error was made, and that it precludes the the business from expanding in the future. And then the third one, that it really is compatible with the surrounding area, both the residential that exists there as well as the commercial activities. And certainly the conditions have changed in that particular area, right? The rail yard is a really big change. So we believe it deserves a reconsideration. So that's it. I don't know, Al, would you like to say anything?
I have one. Wendy and I have lived in Leadville over 30 years. This is our home and our community. We'd like to thank everyone for their time, and especially Ann and her team with the building department for all her work on this project. So thank you.
That's all we have right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Melissa, thank you, Al, thank you, Wendy. So yeah, with the planning department, along with the planning commission and board of county commissioners on their behalf, we decided to join this application for a rezone. And the basis for that was a work session that we had with the planning commission several months ago, where, you know, the boards expressed that they showed some interest or agreement with this area possibly being rezoned into commercial industrial from industrial mining. Some reasons for that are, you know, just the general limited commercial industrial zone parcels in the county. And the bigger one is that the current use of these parcels, including the county parcel, which you might know as the animal shelter parcel, right next to it, are in line with commercial industrial use already. So yeah, Melissa mentioned that the 2015 comprehensive plan mentioned this area in particular of industrial mining land as something to be designated for residential infill in the future. But that was followed by a 2018 amendment saying that IM land shouldn't be rezoned in such a way that encourages or allows more intensive residential and commercial development. And so I think that given that 2018 amendment, this is pretty in line with that. This doesn't encourage more intensive commercial development. It encourages the already present use of the parcels. The only allowed use, or the only foreseeable use we can see from this rezone would be the possible expansion of the current business. We did a geotechnical analysis of this area and found that there's limited mining hazards, limited mining impacts from the past, and so it's actually pretty safe as far as industrial mining land in our county goes. We know that's kind of a wide spectrum, including some intensively and dangerous to develop or rezone properties. This one doesn't fall in that same line. There's no identified mine shafts or mining hazards in these two parcels.
Sorry, just gently.
One thing that needs to be addressed though, because the government animal shelter is on the BOCC parcel that's being proposed for rezone, is that that's an oversight that will need to be corrected with a code amendment, because government animal shelters are not allowed either conditionally or as use by right in the commercial industrial zone district right now. They're allowed as a conditional use in the IM, but I think that was, and can correct me if I'm wrong, but that was put into basically to allow the one government animal shelter we do have.
That was exactly it.
I think the very nature of a government animal shelter means that you're never gonna have one of these just kind of popping up. And the potential hazard for uncontrolled government animal shelters, because we allow this in commercial industrial, is pretty small or none. And so I do think there's a case to be made that government animal shelter can be an allowed use by right in the commercial industrial zone district. And so this application is actually twofold. The first motion is over the rezone of these two parcels, Big Al's parcel and the BOCC animal shelter parcel to commercial industrial from industrial mining. And the second is a code amendment to allow government animal shelters as a use by right in the commercial industrial zone district. But yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. You know, there's solar panels, there's a parking lot and an animal shelter on the government or on the BOCC side of the land. So pretty in line with that 2018 amendment, but it's not going to be intensive use. But happy to answer any other questions.
If you want to just touch on the referral comments,
Yes. So we had, the biggest one was from the city. It was kind of mixed. It was the city was concerned with that 2015 comprehensive plan, which said that this area shouldn't allow, or would actually, is it designated for residential infill? But I don't believe Chapin was made informed of the 2018 amendment to that before he submitted these comments. And so afterwards, we've had a little discussion where he's maybe more comfortable with it. But he also says he's really comfortable with the code amendment proposing that government animal shelters are used by right. And because the city operates their existing animal shelter on the county's property, and so they want to make sure that that use is protected and can continue on. So that was the major feedback we got, was just that the city was just reminding us that that's for residential infill, and we said, absolutely, but it's also, we don't want to encourage more intensive use, and as Melissa said, this use is already taking place there, and so it's not going to be more intensive in the near future.
Okay. Does planning commission or commissioners have any questions for staff first?
Were there any other responses from adjacent landowners?
There were not. We tabled this discussion to make sure that the rail yard or the railroad was allowed to get their proper notice in, though, because that was an omission in the original data we had for sending out the notices. So expected some response from the railroad, nothing, so that makes us encouraged. The only other two pieces of feedback we got were from Office of Emergency Management saying they have no concerns, and Leadville Lake County Fire saying they have no concerns.
So nothing from the lot owners or the mining claim owners behind that?
Nothing from adjacent property owners.
Okay, now we'll go into public comment, and I just can't tell with our Zoom setup if there are people on. Is there anybody on Zoom that I'm not seeing that has from public? Okay. All right, any questions for the applicant or staff at this point? Or a motion to close public hearing? Oh, no.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I think Sarah has a question.
Well, I have a question, a few questions, but we don't necessarily have to do that during public comment. Everyone just has it.
Well, it would close public hearing.
Oh,
So if you have
I have
questions, now it's the time to do that.
Sorry, I thought you were, and closing the public.
No.
Portion of the hearing. Okay, I just wonder, can staff just remind out loud for the record what the minimum acreage for CI was 2, right, and they're just under that.
2.0, yep, and I think we're at 1.9 or a little bit more than that.
Right,
so.
right, okay. And then going through the table of uses, I don't know, like I would love to have maybe more of a discussion on like looking at the table of uses and making sure that what we think we're allowing by right is everything that we want it to be, because I think the city administrator had said that they submitted comments against, and having seen, those comments, I just my thought was, well, this isn't like for an asphalt plant, or, there's a utility, there's a utility, basic utilities, utility service facilities, and it says underground, and that's allowed by right. What is that exactly? I just want to talk through that in the public meeting so that you're sure that we're kind of combating any concerns that this is. I think in my head and our mind, it's a light industrial use, and we want to make sure that like everything listed in the table of uses kind of follows that.
Yeah, I think the one thing the city did mention was that an allowed use by right in the CI district is like a lumber mill or a sawmill or firewood processing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the current uses on the parcels, you know, not going anywhere, and the CI rezone essentially allowing an expansion of the current business precluded a lot of that worry.
But it would be for the county parcels too, so there's like option for additional uses on the county parcel. And I'm not trying to bring up any concern with expanding the storage facility. I just want to kind of throw out the conversation for those that might be concerned that the county land might be, you know, converted and used for something different, rather than, you know, if there is a potential sale, we're going through housing and selling and doing all these new things with land banking, and I just want to talk through, you know, could the county sell 3 acres? Sure. What does that look like? Probably not a highly intensive industrial use.
Yeah, I mean, if the county sold it, they would have the ability to determine what it would be used for afterwards, right?
Right.
And so if the county, I'm sure the county would want to do that with any experience in coordination with the public and with public feedback. And so yeah, there is one portion of the county lot that's not the most accessible portion, but that isn't developed, doesn't have the solar panels, doesn't have the lot on it. But I think that's the beauty of this being a VOCC application, is that the board has no plans on using it in a more intensive way. And if they were ever to dispose of it, they would be able to determine what it was used for and stipulate what it couldn't be used for. So that could also eliminate and alleviate some concerns.
Well, yeah. Yes and no.
Right, I mean, anytime you're rezoning, because, yeah, I mean, like a future, if it's just even if it's on the map, an adjacent property owner trying to rezone to CI right next door to it, you know, it becomes really easy for them to do that if it's adjacent. And so, and so just kind of understanding like what we're allowing over there. And I think that my own thought when we looked at this before, because I felt like we kind of went through this use table when we were talking about this the first time, is I felt like my own thought was that it felt better than the mining industrial stuff because it was less industrial. But yeah, like the utility service facilities with underground, I think what that is like technically Xcel Energy could have a building there. You know, as long as they don't have a bunch of transformers out, or I mean, something up above ground coming out of it. Anything else beyond that is conditional. They can have an entertainment event, offices, parking, you know, and most of the rest of it's conditional. You know, contractor trade shops, which I feel like has always been kind of a
entertainment is included.
It is conditional.
It is conditional.
It is conditional.
So is the junkyard
I don't know that I've
and
seen those a
the
lot anywhere recently.
industrial.
Yeah, I felt like there's not much like that's just straight up allowed without us being able to do anything that I wouldn't feel fine with it being there. I think obviously I also have a like attraction to us growing that CI zone, and that, in my opinion, over the years has always been an area that we've looked at as being such a good spot for CI, is along that whole area. And that kind of commercial industrial use at some point is going to be adjacent to residential, and that's just how it is. And so I think that, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't see much in here that I'm like, oh, that's going to be a big problem if somebody had that there across this, you know, unless it's one of the conditional use ones, maybe, but I think that's why it's conditional.
But it is worth considering that it is going to, you know, the different degree of use, commercial, industrial. You know, the 2015 comp plan does point to this as residential infill, and so this area of the IM zone was already identified as having a different use than IM. We've had that amendment in 2018, but I think that's where the geotechnical analysis really made me feel comfortable, is that this entire area, kind of tucked in that corner between the railroad and Fairview Hill, is essentially, I wouldn't say free of former mining impacts, but definitely significantly less, and especially no identified mine shafts, which is a huge thing compared to other areas, so.
You know, an example is back in the probably late 60s, early 70s, Shell Oil. Looking at that whole area, all the way through Poverty Flats, that's before Big Al's, and before the county had all that area up there with the solar units. And it went all the way over to clear through Poverty Flats to the end. Well, Shell Oil had a plan. It was a big plan that they would open pit mining area. Their goal was to open pit all the way up to Mosquito Range. And that area down there would be very heavy utilized for gyratory crushers and for the crushing and the milling. So those things could be brought in later, which I don't think any of us would want that now. So light industrial, it's not so bad.
Yeah, and it does create a buffer.
Yeah, it does.
I was just gonna mention that we also have a feature in the railroad. That whole parcel is zoned industrial mining, I believe.
Mhm.
And then the separation is Sawmill Road or County Road, I believe.
Right.
So there is, I think you need to also kind of contemplate the buffer between the residential uses to the west and a standing feature in the railroad property and that parcel being IM. So there is a bit of a buffer from the city's residential use there, and then the established uses have been in there, for a period of time, and the residential properties that buffer it to the south, do have a natural separation there as well. So there are some separating features from this zoning to how it actually plays out in reality a little bit too.
Yeah, and I just want to say part of the conversation I remember having with staff is definitely not one to encourage surrounding parcels to then rezone, because it's a good place near infrastructure for that, and to add any incentives or opportunity in our future discussions with future land use map or the comp plan, and where existing and other smaller or light industrial businesses could relocate or expand to. So definitely in favor, just wasn't necessarily feeling like we had that conversation publicly, and wanted to go through that.
And also say that some of the uses that are in the CI allowable, you might find them in business as well. And so, business certainly abuts residential as well too. So, and certainly looking at it through the lens of we just have very limited, we have a lot of ask for industrial uses and really nowhere to put them.
Mhm.
Part of me, because I don't think the board sat down together and went through the table of uses for like that encouragement of that piece, but is that a conversation to have following this application? I just would hate to get into a circumstance where we do this, it actually encourages someone to change the zoning for a use that we haven't contemplated, we don't want to be in there. I don't want to be in a position of responding to a negative.
Well, but anything that was presented that isn't specifically listed would have to be conditional, correct?
Right, but there's like little things in here that, like a farmer's market is conditional use. Why is that conditional use? But a big, a bigger, more impactful use is allowed by right.
So my thinking is that our use table could use work in lots of areas. And I think this goes back to the conversation that I had with Commissioner Fiedler at some point too, is that, and I think we brought it up in here too, is that I know that there are lots of priorities that we have right now. I'm trying to get everything done, but like, still to me, the number one thing that I would love this group to be working on the off times is looking at the land use map and the use table in the zone districts to find out what's appropriate where and where we want to see the future zoning areas and subdivisions and development to happen. And I feel like a lot of that is part of the same conversation because it does drive that. Like, if we allow this in this zone district and we really want more of that zone district here, does that work? You know, and I think that it's like one task, but it's a giant one. But I just feel like it's our priority. If I got to choose what we work on, that would be the number one thing, because I think that when we're talking about new developments that come forward, we're talking about rezones, any of those things, like Leadville's changed so much from when this use table or even the 2018, comp plan was done, that I don't necessarily see the comp plan itself needing changed. It's these actual governing documents like the code needs to change or at least reflect what we want it to be reflecting. And so to me, the use table is a problem for lots of the zone districts right now.
And that would piggyback up on, what staff is going to be discussing, or at least putting out to have discussion with the board, creating a smart growth plan, being very intentional and predictable about what we want those future uses to look like, and making sure that our codes and regulations incentivize that and that we have a true direction. So I think it's a critical and very pivotal time in the community to start creating a very intentional smart growth plan. Which would then in turn, Sarah, direct use at the use table.
Right.
If there's a concern that CI is, that there seems to be a disproportional amount of allowed uses that could have significant impact versus things that are conditional. And that could be an outcome of that focus to look at revisiting that. And certainly, if this precipitates that conversation and bring it to the forefront, it'd be a great time to look at that.
Yeah, I think it's, from one board member, I definitely think it's important to follow this application and any decisions made quickly with those conversations so that it continues like the public appearance that it's very intentional. And we have other plans and thoughts on doing some studies and planning for economic development, and this should integrate pretty closely with that.
Yeah, great way to start the conversation of what other areas of the county need to be looked at. Where does the zoning not necessarily make sense with 2015 comp plan, because that is our guiding document, and that's what everything has to point back to now, so.
Well, and realizing that a lot of these A's were with the idea that the only CI we had was the county property, right? And the idea of like, how do we incentivize people to want to do it? Because they can just do these contractor trade shops and they can do this or that. But as we start to grow CI, then maybe some of these need to change to C, to conditional uses, and that's reasonable, I think. And perhaps in some areas, the airport industrial park, perhaps that can be developed in a way that it wouldn't require extra conditional use permits for stuff like that. But I think, nevertheless, I agree with you, but I also strongly feel like it's not just CI that's got this issue. There's a few of them that I've gone through that I'm like, what? Why are we letting that? Because people have changed what they are so much, or what those uses can entail, that it's like just not can't be as
Just clear
general.
definitions of what these actually.
Mhm.
Well, I do think you brought up a good point. I think there's only two privately owned, if this rezone is successful, I think it'll only be the second privately owned CI parcel.
Mhm.
Everything else is county owned. So this would only be the second private parcel to, any other one that, was initiated down in Stringtown, but.
Yeah.
So this would only be the second private parcel.
So if an adjacent parcel wanted to, so the rezone application would still come to us if they wanted to join the CI.
Correct. Yep. Any other questions or thoughts? Anybody on Zoom? I think we can entertain a motion to close public hearing.
I'll move we close public hearing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Do you have enough pieces of technology?
What? Two phones.
Two phones, two laptops.
This is my notebook.
Oh, I see.
Recommended.
But next time.
Next thing. Okay, so, any discussion?
Well, like we previously we had allowed a conditional.
Oh, maybe you can't. I don't know. Sorry, I just see that Kayla, can you hear us?
Usually you don't pay attention to that.
Okay, you close her.
That's what I'm trying.
No, because it looks like she's hosted.
Yeah, she has the same.
There we
permission.
go.
There she's gone. Okay.
Yeah, well, previously, was it 2018, we had the conditional approval on that parcel. It was fine then. I don't see where it could be fine now. And I agree that we gotta watch what happens the rest of Poverty Flats or this area down the Stringtown. It's another area other than the airport park that's suitable for that type of a use. So I don't have a problem with this one.
No, and I think that, well, it's similar to anything. Anybody who lives somewhere doesn't want whatever it is next door to them, and that's unfortunately the way it will always be. And yes, this is, but somewhere residential has to end and commercial has to start, and this has already very clearly started there with all of the county buildings, all the county infrastructure. To me, it's the best place we can be, even if people come forward with, I mean, and I hope they do, adjacent CI zoning over there. I think it's perfect for it to go over there. And, you know, those homeowners or, you know, those property owners know that and knew that.
Yeah.
And, or should have. And I don't think that it will, if done well, it's going to have a negative impact any more so than what's currently there has. So I don't have concern with that either. I think, I agree that there are things in all of the zone districts that have uses that don't make sense why they're not conditional, to keep them cleaned up and keep them working well, you know, just in general, and therefore running well. So I agree that we need to be looking at the use table at some point, but it'd be a shame, I think, to not.
You know, this particular project, this use, this building, has proven through the years that it's substantial and it's needed.
It lets us create, the entire intention, if I remember right, was to create this commercial use as a buffer to the industrial one that hopefully will then grow once we create that little footprint.
Yeah.
We're just protecting ourselves from more heavy use.
Yeah.
Potentially.
All right. So they want to make a motion?
I'm gonna need a bit of clarification on this motion. So we have two that we need to read for the code amendment and for the rezone.
There'll be two separate motions.
Yeah, one is for the reason.
And then, when we get into A and B,
I'll do the first one, if
okay,
that's all right.
It's either.
Jump in.
Yeah.
that's one of those.
I'll move that the planning commission recommend approval of file number 22-43 to the Board of County Commissioners. A rezoning of Big House mini storage parcel, assessor account number R000374, and the Board of County Commissioners animal shelter parcel, assessor account number R002477, from IM Industrial Mining to CI Commercial Industrial, making the following finding, that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the Lake County Comprehensive Plan.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion?
No.
Roll call, Howard Tripp,
Aye.
Abby Dahlman,
Aye.
Joey Edwards,
Aye.
Heather Lind, aye. And the next motion, right?
Go ahead. I move the planning commission recommend approval of file 22-43, a code amendment to section 5.1 use table, allowing governmental animal shelters as an allowed use by right in the commercial industrial zone district to the Board of County Commissioners, and that a resolution be prepared to memorialize the decision, making the following findings. A, the proposed amendment is consistent with the goals, objectives, policies, and other provisions of the Lake County Comprehensive Plan and this code. And B, the proposed amendment is necessary because of changing social values, new planning concepts, or other social or economic conditions. And C, the proposal is within the best interests of health, safety, and general welfare of the general public.
Second.
Okay. Roll call on, or any discussion? Okay. Howard Schutz,
Aye.
Abby Dahlman,
Aye.
Joey Edwards,
Aye.
Heather Lind, aye. Okay.
Thank you, board, for allowing me to bumble my way through that, my first.
No, thank you. Nice work. Nice work.
file.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Before
Welcome.
you adjourn, I do have, just one other thing. I did look up board appointments, in terms. And so we do have some expiring terms. We have Lupe, he's not with us, so I will notify him. Abby, your term is expiring, so if you would obviously probably like to continue to serve, we'll need a letter. I think give that to staff as for interest. And Bryce was expiring, so that just naturally.
Yeah. Expired.
You know, already asked for that. So, and just so everyone knows, Joey, you expire in the end of 2023. And Jamie, you expire at the end of 2023. And then Heather and Howard, your terms go through the end of 2024. So just so everyone knows, I just want to give a quick update on that. So yeah, Abby, if you can give me letters about your interest, just so on the board, that would be great.
Inhale and hard.
Yeah, not sure
You're on
about
the
this.
spot, Howard.
Sure.
It's a couple more years.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for this.
That's good. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you're getting out of the switch.
Yep,
Just ended or?
it's still pretty quiet.